The research station on Velkarith 7 had been Arya Voss's home for 3 standard months, and she still couldn't pronounce half the names of the native species. The Skaleth were a proud people, standing nearly 8 feet tall with crystalline fur that shimmered in the planet's violet sunlight. They tolerated her presence with the cold politeness reserved for uninvited guests, their vertical pupils tracking her movements with predatory precision. She was the only human on this world, sent by the Galactic Council to study their ancient architecture. The Skaleth had built cities that defied physics, structures that seemed to breathe with the planet itself. But they didn't want her here. Their clan leader had made that abundantly clear during her first week. "Your kind is soft," he'd said, his voice like grinding stone. "You break easily. You have no claws, no strength, no honor." Arya had simply nodded and continued her work. She'd heard worse. On the day everything changed, she'd been exploring the lower levels of the Great Hall, a cavernous structure carved from a single piece of obsidian-like stone. The Skaleth cubs had followed her, as they often did when their elders weren't watching. 6 of them, curious and playful, their crystalline fur still soft with youth. The smallest one, Hero, had taken a particular interest in her scanner, his large eyes reflecting the device's holographic display. "What does it see?" Hero asked in broken standard, his accent thick but eager. "It sees what's hidden," Arya explained, kneeling to his level. "Look here. These walls are older than your oldest stories. They remember things your people have forgotten." The other cubs crowded closer, their earlier wariness forgotten. Arya showed them the thermal imaging, the structural analysis, the way the stone seemed to pulse with ancient energy. For a moment, they were just children, fascinated by something new and strange. That's when the ground shook. The tremor started small, a vibration that rattled Arya's teeth. Then came the roar, deep and primal, as if the planet itself was waking angry. The ceiling groaned, a sound like breaking bones magnified 1,000 times. "Run!" Arya shouted, but the cubs froze, their instincts failing them in the face of unprecedented danger. The first chunk of ceiling fell 20 feet away, exploding into shrapnel. Arya's training kicked in, the survival protocols drilled into every human who ventured into space. She didn't think. She moved. She grabbed Kiro and another cub, throwing them toward the doorway. Her muscles screamed in protest, her human frame not built for moving creatures twice her weight. The other cubs scattered, but 2 were too slow, paralyzed by terror as a massive section of ceiling began to separate from the structure above. Arya saw the mathematics of it in an instant. The falling stone would crush them. The doorway was too far. She couldn't save them by running to so she didn't run. She threw herself over the 2 cubs, her body forming a shield as tons of ancient stone came crashing down. Her last thought before the impact was oddly mundane. Her research would go unfinished. The pain was everything and nothing. Her reinforced suit absorbed some of the impact, its emergency protocols flooding her system with medical nanobots and stabilizers. But nothing could prepare for the weight, the crushing pressure that drove the air from her lungs and turned her vision into stars. Beneath her, she felt the cubs trembling. Still alive, still breathing. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Then darkness took her. When Arya woke, she thought she was dead. The chamber was filled with a soft blue light, and every part of her body felt like it had been disassembled and poorly reassembled. Medical displays floated in her peripheral vision, courtesy of her suit's interface, showing damage that should have killed her 3 times over. But she was alive. Barely. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. A deep, rumbling voice stopped her. "Do not move, soft one." The Skaleth clan leader stood at the foot of her medical pod, his massive frame somehow less intimidating than she remembered. His crystalline fur was dimmed, his vertical pupils wide with what she slowly recognized as awe. "The cubs," Arya croaked, her throat raw. "Alive. All of them. Because of you." Arya nodded, then noticed something strange. The clan leader wasn't meeting her eyes. His gaze was fixed somewhere around her feet, his head slightly bowed. "I don't understand," she said. "Then perhaps you should see." He stepped aside, and Arya's breath caught. The chamber was filled with Skaleth, dozens of them, from the smallest cubs to the most ancient elders. And every single one of them was bowing. their foreheads touching the ground in a gesture she'd only seen them make before their most sacred monuments. Hero pushed through the crowd, his young face streaked with what looked like tears. He approached her pod and pressed his small forehead against the transparent surface. "You were broken," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The stones broke you. But you didn't run. You stayed." The clan leader spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of ceremony. "We called you soft. We said you had no strength, no honor. We were wrong." He raised his head, meeting her eyes for the first time. "Strength is not claws or crystalline fur. Strength is choosing to break so others do not. You have shown us what we had forgotten. It's what anyone would do," Arya said weakly. "No," the elder replied. "It is what humans do. And now we understand why the galaxy fears and respects your kind in equal measure. You are small, yes. Soft, yes. But you are also willing to stand between death and the innocent without hesitation. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength of all." The Skalith began to hum, a deep resonant sound that vibrated through Arya's bones. It was their song of honor, reserved for fallen heroes and legendary warriors. She'd never expected to hear it sung for her. Hero looked up at her, his large eyes shining. "You are Pack now," he said simply. "Forever Pack." Arya felt tears on her own cheeks, though she couldn't remember when she'd started crying. The Skalith weren't bowing to her power or her technology. They were bowing to a choice, the very human choice to shield the vulnerable even at the cost of everything. "Thank you," she whispered. The clan leader's crystalline fur brightened, catching the blue light. "No, Arya Voss. Thank you. You have taught us to see strength in new ways. And we will never forget." As the humming continued, Arya closed her eyes and let herself rest, surrounded by a clan that had called her weak and now called her family. She was broken, yes, but she was also exactly where she belonged. And that, she thought as sleep claimed her again, was worth any price.